Welcome, everybody, to the Genesis Project Podcast. Business principles for beginners from the School of Hard Knocks. They say that success leaves clues. In this podcast, we're going to discover the clues that it leaves behind, and we're going to start at the very beginning. We'll get into the weeds of how the guests of the show came up with their business ideas, the why behind their business ideas, how they dealt with setbacks and failures, what keeps them pushing forward, and the emotions behind it all. Everyone wants to start a business, but many are held back by something that keeps them from starting. We'll learn what it takes to get to the next level of business and beyond, and we're learning together through different principles of people who graduated from the School of Hard Knocks. So, grab you a pen, some paper, and a highlighter to take notes, because class is in session.
Hey, what's up, class? This is the Chancellor Bernard Gleaton, and I just want to take a quick minute just to stop by and let you guys know that you need to subscribe, rate, and share, and comment so that everyone who wants to become an entrepreneur or who is already an entrepreneur can get this lesson. Also, make sure that you jump on my email list and join my special WhatsApp text group for exclusive content. All right, so let's get into the classroom and see what our next lesson is with our new guest professor. I will see you in the classroom.
Hey, welcome to the School of Hard Knocks. I am your Chancellor, Bernard Gleaton, and welcome to the School of Hard Knocks. This is the Genesis Project Podcast. Man, I am so happy that you guys are here with me today because I have reached out and tried to find your next guest professor who can answer some questions that I think we probably all had at some point or some time of our entrepreneur business ventures and things of that nature. So, with that being said, let me bring on our guest professor. Our guest professor today is guest professor Melissa LeDuc, and I hope I said that right. Say what's up to the class.
Hello, class.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Did I even say your name right? I hope I did.
Pretty close. Demarest.
Doggone it. Okay.
Though.
That was close. Okay. All right. I'm good with that. So the reason why I have you onto the show, and I was trying to make it a good teaser for the class, is because you are a business lawyer.
Right.
Not only do you practice business, but I'm sure you practice other forms of law as well. But one of the reasons why I have you on the show is because I had a bunch of questions that pretty much concerns business and law, and whether I, as well as the class, are doing things legally in the eyes of the law, or we just doing it completely wrong, or we just making stuff up.
I understand.
Yes. So with that being said, I want to give you the floor for just a few moments for you to give a quick bio on you and who you are, and we'll take it from there.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks for having me on as a guest today. I appreciate it. So I am a business and real estate lawyer. I've been doing this for about 15 years now, and I work with a lot of startups, small businesses, and existing businesses on anything they need done, pretty much. So starting a new business, buying a business, selling a business, leasing an office, buying or selling real estate, and really anything that could come up in the life of a business, hiring employees, dealing with employee issues, signing contracts, just about anything like that, I know about it.
That is awesome, because I have a question on probably just about everything you just said. So with that being said, the one question I ask all of my guest professors here is, what is your Genesis moment? And before you jump into that, let me explain to the class what the Genesis moment is. The Genesis moment is when you come to a fork in your road, and you can go right or you can go left, but you can see what your life could be like beyond those first steps. So, for example, me starting a show, that's the Genesis moment. Me getting married, that's another Genesis moment. And me trying out for the CFL 4 years removed from high school, that there is another Genesis moment. So, guest professor Melissa, what is your Genesis moment?
One that comes to mind today is when I started my career as a lawyer, I was doing both litigation and the work that I do now, business and real estate, and had to decide, which one do I really like better? And I decided I liked working with people, helping them set up their businesses and make their business decisions and make things easier and better for them rather than fighting in court about stuff. So that was my genesis moment.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, I originally had one question for you, and I'm going to save that for a little bit later. But the first question I want to ask you is, how long have you been practicing law, and what got you into business law in particular?
So I've been practicing law for a little over 15 years. I work for my dad's firm. I mean, I guess it's our firm, but I've been working for him unofficially since I was a little kid and officially for 15 years or so. And so I started getting into business law because that's what he was doing. And we have a lot of clients that have been with our firm for 20 or 30 years, and mostly existing businesses. So I that's how I learned, how to help businesses is with all of these existing clients that we already had when I joined the firm.
Okay, awesome. So this is a family-ran firm.
It is.
That is awesome. I think that it's not enough businesses that is actually being passed down, through the family and things of that nature. So it's great to know, and it's great to see that you are keeping your family's firm up and running upright as much as possible.
Yeah, it's unique for sure being in a family business, but I actually made a group that I'm in of next generation family business owners, and it's a really unique group, but it's a good place to share our experiences of being in family business, and then you'll be able to take that back to some of my clients as well who have family businesses.
Yeah. Now I didn't have this question slated, but I wanted to ask you, what is it like, working in a family business where your parents could be your boss and everything like that? How was that? What's that experience like?
It was a little strange at first, but I've called my dad by his first name for a long time, so that I got used to pretty easily. But we have a good working relationship. We're both pretty calm. There's no drama or anything like that.
Okay, because I think one thing we've seen, at least just in the media, is when you work in a family business, it's a lot of family drama and things of that nature. So
there certainly can be.
Yeah. So the first question I wanted to ask you is, could you explain the differences between an LLC, an S corp, and partnerships and things of that nature? Because
Sure.
as we mentioned, or as we talked before I hit the record button, I told you that I created a online course that teaches people how to start their own business, that go from idea to incorporated within 24 hours or so.
Okay.
But I would really like to get your standpoint on the differences between the LLC, the S corp, and so forth.
Okay. So usually for a startup, what I recommend is an LLC because it's the simplest to set up and it's the simplest to maintain over time. So LLCs, you file articles of organization with the state in which the business is located, and you have to pay annual reports to whatever the state is. You have to file the annual reports and pay the annual fees, but there aren't really any other long-term maintenance requirements for the company. But with an S corp or any other kind of corporation, you have to keep a corporate minute book. It gets a little more complicated, and so you have to do annual meetings and corporate records and things like that with a corporation that you don't have to do with an LLC. So that's one of the big differences between a corporation and an LLC. An S corp is a specific kind of corporation. So S corp is a tax. You would set up an S corp for tax reasons. S corp versus C corp. Usually, I defer to an accountant on what kind of taxation treatment that you want for a company. You can also elect to have an LLC treated as an S corp or for tax purposes. So that's something that I'd say I'd recommend getting an accountant and talking to them about the differences between the two from a tax perspective. Partnerships are a kind of a historic term, but generally I don't recommend doing what you would call a partnership. I'd recommend setting up an LLC with whoever it is that you want to work with, or a corporation if that's better for your tax structure or legal structure. But a partnership is less formal and it has less protection for liability for the individual owners. So an LLC and a corporation both protect the owners against liability for the company's actions, and a partnership has less protection.
Okay, okay, that is good information because I feel that while this is probably one of the most asked questions, I think the way that you put it has been very, very helpful. You know, I don't think I was able to put it in those direct terms that you just put it in. But hey, that's why you know more than I do.
Do it every day.
Yes, yes, and that's another reason why I have you on the show.
Thank you.
Now, I want to know from your personal, or rather from your professional standpoint, uh, that businesses and entrepreneurs, what are you seeing that they are not doing, that they fail to do?
So one thing I recommend is, when you're first starting out, it's a good idea to find a business lawyer to work with. A lot of people like to try to do things themselves because it might be cheaper or because whatever the reason might be. Or go to like LegalZoom or some other kind of online site. But I'd recommend finding somebody in your area who knows about business law or entrepreneur law. And it's kind of the same thing, but not exactly. And, finding out some specifics from them about what might be unique for your area, your industry, what use their knowledge. And, for example, our firm offers a flat fee package to companies who want to set up a new LLC to try to, help people get that done for low cost in order to then be able to build a relationship with them down the road. And same thing, anybody who wants to come in and start an LLC, we've offered the same low flat fee for quite a few years as an intro price, basically try to be competitive with some of these online sites to then build the relationship with that client so that whenever they need something else down the road, they know who to go to. So I think that's, that would be one thing I see that people not doing is checking in with experts first just to see what's available.
Right. I would say that I am one of those people who did not go and seek out a business lawyer. I am rather I use LegalZoom to actually start my first business.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's not unusual.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not. I do want to say, for a lot of our online entrepreneurs and things of that nature, we've seen how GPDR is starting to take control over when it comes to privacies and things of that nature. Now, while GPDR is mostly over on the other side of the world, we're still seeing some of those ramifications over here stateside.
Yep.
And one of the things that I failed to mention is that you're actually in my area, so I could really consult with you in Detroit, Michigan, and the Michigan region or what have you. But the question I want to know is, how can we stay prepared as business owners, as online entrepreneurs and things like that? How can we stay prepared for that if it comes and blow up as big as it did over across the pond?
Yeah. So one thing to do is to be paying attention to, find, if you have a lawyer already, a lot of firms have a blog or they might put out newsletters on updates like that. If you don't have one already, just Google, the topic and find a firm that has put out some info about it and maybe see if you can subscribe to what they're putting out. Because there's a lot of firms, big and small, that put out pretty good regular updates on things that businesses might need to know about, whether it's, website things like GDPR or, coronavirus relief or whatever it might be. But I would say, try to find a resource like that you can trust, who you can just subscribe to and see if they can just, provide you regularly with those updates that you need to know about.
Just out of curiosity, what is your personal standpoint on GPDR?
I know that any website that has international traffic needs to follow those standards and have those notifications. I don't do much tech law, like in terms of I know a little bit about it, but I'm not like a patent lawyer or anything like that. So I don't have in-depth knowledge of it.
Right. Yeah, I guess I probably should have said what the definition of GPDR is. For the most part, for those of you in the class who are unfamiliar with the GPDR, GPDR is Global Protection Data Rights. So it helps to protect the rights or the data rights of the people who come in and visit your website, who leaves you information, and sometimes even try to keep you from leaving what's called cookies behind on your website, so that whenever somebody visits your website and they leave, you still have that piece of information that will track them and all that type of stuff. So it's just a way to try to protect your data as you as a consumer, and try to get the businesses and things of that nature to try to play fair when it comes to your protection as far as your data and all that type of good stuff. So I think that's a good job. I think I did a good job.
Are you tired of drowning in a sea of receipts and invoices? Well, it's QuickBooks to the rescue. Their accounting software is like a life raft for small business owners. It helps you stay organized, track your finances, and helps you make smart business decisions. Plus, it's so easy to use, even a sloth can learn it. Not that we're calling you slow, but you know, sloths are notoriously chill. So why wait? Give QuickBooks a try and start selling smoothly through the world of business. Check it out at our resource page at genesisprojectpodcast.com/resources.
Yeah, I think you did. So the only thing I'd add is that if you have a business where you have a website that is going to be accessed by international customers, you want to make sure you're following those requirements, because you don't want to get in trouble with the EU on that.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, nobody wants to be in trouble with that. So I know you're not much of an accountant or anything like that, but I do want to know, why is it that businesses and entrepreneurs and the likes always get in trouble when it comes to taxes in their businesses? Could you answer that?
I would say, again, like maybe with starting in your own business and trying to do things on your own, I think it's best to try to build your team as much as you can, including an accountant and some other professionals, to try to help you proactively decide what your best tax structure is, and be as proactive as possible so that you don't get into trouble later on with tax issues.
Yeah, yeah. I would agree. I would agree. Thank God at this present moment, at least to my knowledge, I have not had any type of trouble with that. It just on a personal note, what I try to do is I have a separate account for taxes, and I have a separate account for business expenses. I have a separate account for savings, and I have a separate account for just to keep petty cash in, right? So whenever I land a contract, I take about 25 to 30%, and I stash that away in a tax account. So at the end of the year, if I have to pay taxes or whatever, I at least have some money stashed to the side for me to pay my taxes and things of that nature. And for those of you in the class, I would highly recommend you doing that. But again, of course, like I and guest professor had just mentioned, it's probably best that you go and talk to a tax accountant or just to an accountant in general, and try to get that situated as well.
Yeah, best to plan ahead. Whatever system works best for you is fine, but best to plan ahead. And also make sure that you're accounting for all the different kinds of taxes. So if you have a business where you need to pay sales tax, or if you need to have employment taxes or things like that, that you're making sure all those things get filed and paid like they're supposed to be.
Yeah. I would definitely agree with that. What are some basic laws that we as business owners, or we as business owners, entrepreneurs, don't know about or should be aware of?
So, there's lots of different levels of laws. There's local, state, federal laws, and there are a lot that are specific to different industries. So it really depends what industry you're in or what your business is. So like food businesses, for example, need to know about local ordinances, following the local health department rules. And if you have a physical business, you need to know about the local rules for signage and parking and whatever those other rules might be. So those are things to pay attention to if you have a physical business or a food business. If you're online, you need to be paying attention to what probably more of the federal laws are, but also maybe state laws. Like you said before, the GPDR, you need to know about that as well if you have an online business. It's hard to say exactly because it really depends on, like I said, the specific nature of the business. But
Right.
yeah.
Right. I have a buddy of mine who owns a bar. It's a pretty popular bar in the city of Detroit. Um, we've talked often before he actually opened up his bar. And he kind of gave me some of the rundown on everything they had to deal with as far as zoning and
Mhm.
the liquor license and what they can and cannot do. And one of the biggest things that surprised me was the legalities behind the security of a bar. Are
Yeah.
you able to speak on that just a tad bit?
Yeah, I have several clients who have bars and restaurants, so I know some about that. So yeah, if you're buying a bar or a restaurant that has a liquor license, there's a lot of hoops you have to jump through to get approved by the state. So you have to file your application with the Liquor Control Commission. If there's any kind of change in ownership, they need to know about it and they need to approve it ahead of time. So if you have a liquor license, you can't just sell your business without getting their approval.
Mhm.
Zoning requirements, every city and county are a little bit different, but you do have to go to them to get approved for different things before you can open usually and get your certificate of occupancy and make sure you're meeting all their requirements for a certificate of occupancy. And if you're buying a business where they might not have been following all those rules to begin with, you'll often have to then clean up the issues. I had a client that had a mural painted on the outside of their building that wasn't to code, and so they had to go deal with the city about that because the previous owner had put the mural up, but it then became my client's problem to get it then, to deal with the city because the permit had never been pulled for it. So there's a lot of if you're buying a physical location like that, you really need to know that you're going to have to work with the city cooperatively to get things up and running and keep running smoothly. And then as well as the state Liquor Control Commission, lots of other entities if you are a business that sells liquor and is regulated like that.
Hmm. Now you brought up a good you brought up something that reminded me of a question that I always wanted to ask. So let's say there is um, you're buying a bar or a restaurant that sells alcohol and things of that nature. I want to know that person that's actually buying the bar. Is there any if this person have like some felonies on their record or anything like that? Is that person still able to purchase that bar or restaurant, or is there another way to sort of get around that?
Yeah, if you have a criminal record, you probably are not going to be allowed by the MLCC to buy a business like that. They go through a pretty thorough vetting process. So when you apply to them, you have to get fingerprinted, and they run a thorough background check. You have to go through a bunch of interviews because they want to make sure who they're dealing with, and that whoever it is they trust is going to uphold the law in selling liquor to the public. So if you have convictions or if you have previous offenses, like if you owned a business where they sold liquor and you got tickets for selling to minors or whatever it might be, they're usually going to restrict you from being able to purchase and operate that kind of a business. So you have to disclose to the LCC anyone who's an owner of the business. So
Hmm.
you could have like someone who loans money to the business. They wouldn't necessarily have to know about that, but anyone who's actually an owner of the business has to be disclosed to the LCC. So if you have convictions, you wouldn't be able to be an owner typically of that kind of a business.
Right, right. Now, obviously, before the pandemic came around, we had to deal with a lot of unfortunate shootings and things of that nature. And we've seen time and time again, well, at least in our area, in the Michigan area, how there has been some violent actions that has happened at some of these bars and things of that nature.
Hmm.
If you allow me to kind of stay on this topic for a brief moment, I
Sure.
want to know what is the legalities that as an owner we have to deal with when a violent, you know, action happen at their place of establishment.
So fortunately, most of my clients have not had to deal with that, and I'm glad for that. But I think there's a few different aspects here. One is any business that sells liquor has to have insurance to cover any issue like that might happen on the property. So there's dram shop liability, like if someone gets very drunk at a bar and then goes out and has a car accident, the restaurant or bar could be liable to anyone that is injured in that accident. So they have to have insurance to cover that. They have to have insurance to cover anything that happens on the premises. So it really is, it's going to be specific to the bar or restaurant to provide whatever kind of security they think might be necessary, or not to overserve people, or whatever it might be to keep the place safe. Because if there are a lot of incidents, they're going to be running into trouble with the city or whoever it might be, the city or the LCC or the local police. So I think it's really going to be situational, and but I think it's on the business owner to be proactive and make sure that they're running a safe operation.
Yeah. Okay, if you allow me to, let's segue away from bars and restaurants. I want to get your thoughts on the gig economy. Again, especially with the pandemic that's going on right now, we've seen that the gig economy started to peak and kind of bubble before the pandemic, but obviously as soon as the pandemic happened, it just boiled over. So I want to get your thoughts on the gig economy.
Yeah, for right now, I think it's a good way for a lot of people to be able to earn a living. It seems like when other kinds of jobs are not really available right now. But it's interesting because it's not quite the same as employment economy. So we don't have the same rules that apply like in a regular job, basically, where you have a regular employer. So, I'm sure there's pluses and minuses for anyone who's involved in a gig economy type job, whether it's, DoorDash or whatever it might be. But, those big companies don't have to follow the same kinds of rules as a regular employer would. And so, I would say there's probably some protections that people who are in the gig economy are losing out on. But at the same time, they have the freedom to set their own schedules and control their own work a little bit more. So it's, I guess it kind of depends on what it is you're looking for and, what your experience is in that kind of position.
Yeah. I have a friend of mine who started a catering business. Well, she loves to cook, and she started a business, and she was able to get her business on DoorDash and all that type of stuff. Now, mind you, she does not have a brick and mortar, and I was obviously extremely happy for her that she even took this step because she makes some great food. I'm pretty sure she's probably going to be listening into this, but I won't put her out there just yet till I get her on the show. However, I want to know, as a entrepreneur that's actually involved in the gig economy, how can a entrepreneur protect themselves within the gig economy so that they won't get screwed in the end or what have you?
So anyone who is hiring people to work for them in a gig type role, I would say you should have an independent contractor agreement and make sure that you have an agreement in writing with whoever's working for you, that they're responsible for their own insurance, they're responsible for their own taxes, that you're not responsible for any of that, and that you're going to be paying them by 1099, because that's typically how that's done. So that is one thing that you should be doing. Another thing really any business should be doing is making sure they have the appropriate kinds of insurance that they need for whatever their business is. So, a food business in general can be a high if anyone gets sick from any kind of food that has been spoiled or whatever it might be, there's liability potential. So anyone who's working in a food business should have the insurance that they need. So that's another person I recommend having on your team is an insurance agent to make sure that you're covering all your bases insurance wise.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, you kind of caught me in the middle of coming up with another question here, but it's fine. I wanted to know, how can a entrepreneur, a lot of us entrepreneurs, we're actually utilizing the gig economy for great things, right? For instance, I have a person that does my graphics and things of that nature for social media, create little videos for me, again, for me to share on social media and things of that nature. He has a business, I have a business. This person in particular is actually out in, I want to say, India or Pakistan or something like that, right? So how can we how can we make sure that we're operating above board when we're dealing with offshore employees and things of that nature? Not maybe not employees, but in that type of situation there.
Yeah, you want to make sure you have a contract that sets out the rights of who owns what, who does what, who's getting paid what, and on what terms and what schedule. Your contract is going to control the relationship. So if it goes south, that's what you're going to be relying on. So you want to make sure that's all in writing. There's different international provisions that you should add if you're doing an international contract. If you're going through like a system that pairs you up with somebody in another country to do the work for you, they probably have those types of terms in their contract already. I know there's sites where you can find a designer, somewhere else in the world and pay them a small amount of money or whatever it is to design something for you. But if you're doing it independently, I would make sure that you have a good contract in place.
Are you tired of being bogged down by HR tasks? Well, it was Gusto to the rescue. Their HR software is like a superhero for small business owners. It helps you manage payroll, benefits, and HR compliance with ease. Plus, it's so simple to use, even a penguin can figure it out. Not that penguins are known for their business savvy, but they are pretty smart birds. So why wait? Give Gusto a try and watch your HR tasks melt away like ice cream on a hot summer day. Check it out at our resource page at genesisprojectpodcast.com/resources.
Okay. I think that's good stuff. I've found on your website that you have your permission, or sorry, not permission. You have the mission statement, your mission statement, and your mission statement quotes, "Provide great service, do things the right way, and always put the client's interests first." And you also have on there, how do we accomplish this? By number one, with integrity, after with transparency and fostering trust. Two, affordability, competitive rates, low overhead, not creating unnecessary work. Three, efficiency, efficient processes lead to a better product. Four, communication, responsive to our clients, good internal communication, anticipate clients' needs. Teamwork is number five, cooperation. Anyone in the firm can pick up the ball and run with it. And number six, community, creating an enjoyable and cooperative work environment, interacting with our greater community. And finally, number seven, civility, in our interactions with other attorneys and in our pleadings. One of the things that really jumped out at me was the integrity part, right? And again, because you're in the Michigan area, around Detroit and whatnot, which is where I'm from as well. We've seen how, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago, we've seen how the past Detroit mayor has became a lawyer, went to law school and everything like that, and then he became mayor of the city of Detroit. And while he's supposed to have integrity for the law and things of that nature, uh, he obviously did what he did to end up sending him where he is currently, right? But I'm bringing that up because I want to know, how can you find the right lawyer? You know, if we're utilizing that integrity piece, how can we find the right lawyer that's going to fit what we need and is actually going to act with our best interest in mind?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think, the best way that a lot of our clients find us is word of mouth through other clients. So I would start by talking to somebody who has a business and find out if they have a lawyer they work with that they like or they trust or that they don't like. Somebody they didn't like already. So you can know either a starting point of somebody who's good or somebody who you don't think is going to be a good fit for you. I think it's okay to go around to a few different attorneys and talk to, and see who's going to be a good fit for you, whether it's personality, whether it's values, whether it's cost, whatever it might be, location, whatever. Location doesn't seem to matter that much these days, but otherwise the other things seem to matter. But I think, Google is a decent resource, but at the same time, it's not going to give you a great sense of who somebody is without really talking to them or talking to somebody who knows them. So I think, really word of mouth is the way we get a lot of our clients still. And I think that's probably the best way to find somebody.
Okay. Again, being a native Detroiter, and you're being in the Michigan area, and pretty much how national and dare I even say global that whole scam had been with the mayor and things of that nature. I often see how I think that was probably my first interaction with seeing how important having integrity is, right? And not just as a business owner or entrepreneur or a lawyer or for that fact a mayor, right? But see just how important integrity is. So I would really like to applaud you for even putting that in your mission statement and really trying to push that to the forefront. And I think that more of us should try to err on the side of integrity. Whether we feel like it or not, we need to do what is best, what is right for us, but as well as our clients, our customers, and things of that nature. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. And I totally agree with that.
Yeah. So we're coming down to, I guess you could say, is the easier questions. So I want to know, what is the one thing you wish you knew before you became a lawyer?
Going to law school really doesn't teach you how to actually be a lawyer. At least it didn't 15 years ago. I think that some of the law schools are working on changing that somewhat, but you don't really learn how to be a lawyer in law school. You learn how to do research and read cases and analyze laws and things like that. But to actually learn how to be a lawyer, you have to be interacting with clients and learning how to meet their needs. And so a lot of times it means learning about an industry, learning about a kind of business, learning about exactly what it is that this client needs and how that might compare to a different client. And a lot of times there's overlap between different businesses because, some issues carry over no matter what the business is, but some issues are very specific to individual businesses. So that's one thing I wish I had known, is that, really what you actually need to do as a business lawyer is learn other people's businesses so that you can help them do what they need to get done.
I think that's good stuff right there. I also want to know, how do you run a law firm and still find balance with your home life? Because I know it's, as an entrepreneur, I often struggle with this as well. Although I will say that I've gotten better at it. I have sometimes issues with saying, okay, it's time for me to stop working and go focus on my wife, my kids, and everything that we have going on at home. And then other times it's hard for me to distinguish, okay, enough time with the family, we got to get back to work now. So how do you do that?
So I try to keep a pretty regular schedule of office time versus home time, whether that means I'm actually at my office, which I am today, but I'm not always these days. Like most people, I'm at home some of the time too. But trying to keep a balance between what's office time and what's home time. So, try to work a regular schedule during the day, and then, have dinner and bedtime and stuff with my kids. And then if I need to go back to work, do that later in the evening. I try to keep the weekends as work free as I can, but it really depends on what's going on. But that's how I try to keep it, is, try to define my day by work time, keep it separate from the family time.
Right. Now, I also know that, again, as an entrepreneur, is we always have those moments where we're like, oh man, why did I even make that decision? So with that being said, I want to know, what is one of the biggest mistakes that you've made as a lawyer, or just in your field in general?
Hopefully I haven't made any really big mistakes, but I think, the biggest mistake that I can see making as a lawyer is giving an off-the-cuff answer when you don't really know exactly what the answer is.
Are you tired of spending hours trying to create a sales funnel that actually converts the sales? Well, say goodbye to the headaches and hello to Drop Funnels. Their platform makes it easy to create professional, high-converted sales funnels with just a few clicks. And the best part, it's so intuitive, even a 3-year-old could use it. Not that we recommend you getting a 3-year-old to run your business. So why wait? Give Drop Funnels a try and watch your sales soar to new heights. Check it out at our resources page at genesisprojectpodcast.com/resources.
And maybe it turns out that the advice you gave isn't right. So, if someone calls me with a question that I don't know the answer to, I try to tell them, I don't know offhand. I'm going to look into that and I'll get back to you in a little while, because I don't want to give you bad advice. And so that's really how I try to avoid making big mistakes like that.
That's, if more people could think along those same lines, that would be amazing.
Yeah, it saves you trouble at times, for sure. It might take a little longer, but it saves you trouble.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so I want you to tell the class the one thing about you that cannot be found on Google or Wikipedia.
Oh, I don't know if I'm even in Wikipedia, but let's see. It's a tough question. Right now,
you know what? Let me hit you with this, because again, I know you're from Michigan, and only Michiganders and Detroiters would know this. Which Coney Island would you rather prefer? American or Lafayette Coney Island?
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't want to offend anybody, right? But
I figure I'll make it a little easier but tough for you as well.
Yeah, the one I've been to most recently was Lafayette. Of course, we can't eat it in any of them right now anyway, but yeah, Lafayette was the one I've been to most recently, so I'll go with that.
Okay, awesome. I'll go ahead and tell this short story. I was in a downtown area, and I was driving by. It was one night, and they was filming, I want to say, the movie Red Dawn.
Okay.
Downtown Detroit, right? And I don't know, this might have been like 9-10 o'clock, or it might have been closer to midnight, something like that. And I'm just driving around, had no idea that they was filming the movie down there, right? And as I drove by American and Lafayette Coney Island, I seen this guy on top of one of the buildings, and he had a gun and he was pointing down, and he was pulling the trigger, and I seen the muzzle flash, right? And I seen it so quick, and I'm like, oh, what's going on here?
Yeah.
What's going on, right? And I was like, man, I should probably just go straight home, but I didn't. I turned around, rolled back around, because I had to see for myself. Am I really seeing what I think I'm seeing?
Right.
And turns out that they was making a movie, and it was Red Dawn. Yeah. They had tanks coming down the street and everything.
Yeah.
And that was kind of cool. And they had a explosion scene, and I'll never forget this. They blew out the windows of, I want to say, American Coney Island.
Okay.
Right. And I'm like, man, American Coney Island gonna have to pay for those windows down, but God bless them. because they blew it out. They went and replaced the windows and everything.
Yeah.
So that was nice of them.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. You know, you don't see as many movie sets now, but like 10 years ago or so, 10, 15 years ago, it seems like every time I go downtown, there'd be another movie set down there. So it was a cool experience to be in the midst of those movie sets.
Yeah, yeah. I will also say that one of my favorite memories of them filming movies here was Transformers and um, Batman versus Superman. Mainly
Yeah.
because I love the train depot. Uh, I I I love what it stands for. I love what it used to be, the history of it, and it's just beautiful. Even though it's kind of deserted and all that type of stuff. And that's before Ford had brought the builder and all
Right.
that stuff. But
Right.
yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. It's cool to see Detroit in a movie, even if it's looking like something else.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Rightfully so. Rightfully so. So, the last question I want to ask you, I want you to give the class one takeaway from this lesson that you've taught amazingly today.
Thank you. I think really what I want people to know is that when you're first starting out, don't be afraid to go talk to a business lawyer. We're generally people who want to help you and get your business up and running successfully in the right way. And then, if you have any questions down the line, hopefully we'll be able to help you out with them, whatever it might be. So I think it's good to establish a relationship early on with a business lawyer, and don't be afraid for a small cost up front to get something set up, because it could save you a lot of money in the long run.
I would say that's great information. Well, with that being said, as you can see, I have your information on the screen. And to the class, you've heard it all. If you want to get in touch with guest professor Melissa, make sure you check her out at her website. Actually, she has a couple of websites. And I just want to throw this little tidbit in there that you was 2020 Michigan Super Lawyer Rising Star in December 2020. So I want to say kudos to that. I didn't get a chance to actually tell you that earlier.
Thank you.
So to the classroom, that with that accolades right there, that just goes to show that I have a person on here who knows what she's talking about, and like I said, she is a rising star. So I would highly recommend for you guys to get in contact with her, talk to her about your business needs and things of that nature, because like she said, it might be a small cost up front, but believe me, it will save you tons of money later on down the road, and it will keep you out of trouble for the most part. Just do that. Just stay out of trouble by just contacting her and just discussing some of these things with her. With that being said, class, you know what I always say around this time, before I get to that point, again, let me just say thank you, guest professor, for coming on to the show and lending your expertise to us and all that type of good stuff.
You're welcome, and best of luck to everybody in the class.
Yes, and to you, class, you know what I like to say around this time. Make sure you chase after everything that you want in life, everything and anything with violent action. Class has concluded, and I will see you guys in the next one. About 15 years ago, I hated where I was at, and I knew that I was meant for more greatness. I wanted to start a business, and I asked my friends and family, how do I start a business? 90% of them never started a business before, and the 10% that didn't remember what they did. So I went on and earned my bumps and bruises from the School of Hard Knocks. My inspiration for the School of Hard Knocks and the courses that I've created was to reach people that felt the same way that I felt way back when. Like I was destined for more. The purpose of the Genesis Project podcast was to move those same people towards that greatness with the guest professor that comes to the show and learn from their mistakes. This is a call to action to those who are searching for greatness. Join the School of Hard Knocks by commenting, sharing, subscribing, and get this message out to those searching for greatness. Click on the links in the description to get more information. And everything you do, everything that you chase after with violent action. I'll see you in the hallway.